Hey guys, Herman Morris from Mouthful and Tactical here. Today I wanted to give you my thoughts about the two must-have enhancements for any AR-15. And the reason I say any AR-15 is that regardless of the application of that particular rifle, I think that these two things must absolutely be added to any rifle. Now obviously, again, based on application, you're going to have to change some other things, maybe add some different things. And there's obviously a lot of considerations, a lot of factors, but any AR-15 must have these two, in my opinion. All right, so I'm going to start with the most obvious one, and that's going to be an optic. Okay, notice that I said optic. Again, depending on application or mission, however you want to look at it, then that's going to determine whether it's going to be a red dot optic, a low power variable optic, or just a high power variable optic, or even just a static magnification. So that's going to vary, but in general, rule of thumb, most people who are just regular civilians and are just getting started into shooting carbine, a red dot you'll usually do the job. So my go-to and any go-to fighting rifle, personal defense rifle, home defense rifle, whatever, is just a good red dot. Okay, I'll probably make another video going through the pros and the cons of all of these different types of optics, but in this case, I'll just tell you, you need an optic. You need something that's going to make you more efficient, more effective, especially at range. So the red dot is a very, very easy way to get there right away. I disagree with a lot of the people that say that you should get started with irons first and you should master irons first. That's a very antiquated opinion, in my opinion, because that came from decades ago when red dots were very expensive, hard to come by, and they also didn't work very well or broke very easily, that you ended up having to use your irons anyway, and so that kind of carried over. But the reality is that there are very, very few barriers to entry for a good quality red dot these days. Almost anybody can afford one. Even cheap ones are pretty robust, so it's very easy to just throw one on there and get good at shooting pretty quickly. That keeps people motivated, that gets people excited about shooting, and so I'd rather do that than start with something more complicated than like something like shooting with irons. We can always have the irons and then always throw in some drills shooting with irons, but I would rather just get people into shooting and get good faster. Okay, so one is get an optic. Number two is might not be as obvious to some people, but in my opinion, one of the biggest design flaws of the AR-15 is the charging handle. Let's start with the position. The fact that it's kind of in the middle and all the way to the rear on top of that upper receiver makes it very awkward. You need to reach over and claw it, and whether it's having to come off your firing grip to actuate it. You have to break your cheek weld, sometimes even your shoulder weld, and you definitely are coming off your sight picture. It's just a very clumsy position for that charging handle, so I'm not a big fan of that. And then even just the original charging handle itself is very small. It's very hard to get your hands on it or your fingers on it. It can slip very easily. It's not ambidextrous. It's just suboptimal. And so I always tell people, get an enhanced charging handle. There's a few different types out there, but the bottom line is they have these extended ears. It's a lot easier for you to get your fingers around them. You can actually use your palm to actuate the charging handle instead of just having to get it with your fingers, so you can use more gross motor skills in order to do that. There's ambidextrous versions. Some of them are just enhanced in one side as opposed to the other. So you're really going to have to figure out what works best for you. If you are a lefty, you're probably going to have to get an ambidextrous one. And if you're right-handed, maybe just the enhanced ear on the one side, on the left side of the charging handle where it latches. Just look into it. Just look for enhanced charging handles. They really do make a difference. And it's never more obvious than when people show up to class and they're trying to run certain drills, especially stoppage drills and a lot of different stuff where we're trying to go fast, we're trying to resolve stoppages and a lot of different things like that, where people with regular charging handles are really having a hard time. They're struggling to get through the drills, and it just becomes very apparent very fast that those standard charging handles are just not good enough. So do your homework, look for those enhanced charging handles, one that you think will work best for you, one that's in your price range. But there's a lot of different options out there, and in another episode I'll address the different types of optics and the pros and the cons of red dots versus LPVOs, low power variable optics, high power optics, all that kind of stuff. But for now, if you buy an AR-15, make sure that you get an optic for it and that you get an enhanced charging handle. All right, let me know what you think. I'll see you next time.